A few months ago on Instagram, I did a little test to see if you could freeze chia pudding. I had just made a big batch of my homemade cashew milk recipe, and I knew it would probably go off before I could finish drinking it all. So I thought, I wonder if I can make a big batch of chia pudding and freeze it. But what I was most curious about was, would the chia pudding thaw properly and retain its texture? Well, good news, the answer is a resounding yes. From that point on, my approach to chia pudding has been completely transformed because instead of making individual servings of chia pudding whenever the craving strikes, I now make 5 to 10 servings of chia pudding and freeze it. This means that I have up to 10 healthy meals that will last for weeks in the freezer, and all I have to do is thaw and enjoy. In today's video, I'll show you how to meal prep chia pudding and give you a variety of topping ideas. But similar to all of my other meal prep videos, I created a downloadable PDF guide, and you can print this out and keep it handy in the kitchen. To get this guide and any future guides, just make sure that you're signed up on my email list, and I will leave a link to that in the description box below. Oh, one more thing. If you're not yet signed up for our private Facebook group with downshifters around the world, you really should. We have an amazing community, and I will leave a link to that in the description box below as well. All right, let me show you how to meal prep some chia pudding. Before we start making the chia pudding, we need to get some storage containers. And my favorite are these glass 1/4 liter weck jars. As you'll see, they're the perfect size for one portion of chia pudding and a good amount of fruit, and they stack perfectly, which maximizes space. To make the chia pudding, you'll need 2 ingredients, milk and chia seeds. I'm using my homemade cashew milk, but you can use whichever milk you prefer. And fresh chia seeds are best to ensure that they gel properly, but we'll talk more about that in a second. You can also add optional sweeteners and flavors to your chia pudding, but because I have vanilla extract and a smidge of maple syrup in my cashew milk, I'm not adding anything extra. So one portion of chia pudding is 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and 1/2 cup of milk. I'm divvying up the portions into each individual storage container, but you can also multiply the individual quantity by the number of portions you'd like to make, stir it all together in one big bowl, and then separate it out. For instance, if you're making 6 portions like I'm doing today, that's 3/4 cup of chia seeds and 3 cups of milk. Whichever approach you take, when your chia seeds and milk are together, give them a stir. Your chia seeds should start to gel almost immediately, and if after 5 minutes they haven't started to thicken and gel, you likely have bad chia seeds. Chia seeds can definitely go off after time, especially if they haven't been stored in an airtight container. If that happens to you, don't toss out your failed pudding, just blend it with some fruit and make a smoothie. Then go buy some new chia seeds and try it again. After about 15 minutes, you'll notice the chia pudding has really started to thicken. Give it another stir, and then we can add some toppings. The great thing about meal prepping chia pudding is that you can use fresh or frozen fruit. But I know that depending on the season and where you are in the world, sometimes frozen fruit is not only easier to find, but it's also cheaper, so you can certainly use it in this recipe. 2 of my favorite fruit blends from Whole Foods are the berry blend and the tropical fruit medley, but I'll show you several other options as well. If you're using frozen fruit, it's as simple as pouring some on top of the chia pudding, or in my case, until the container is full, and then adding the lid. You can pop this straight into the freezer where it will stay good for several weeks, and you are good to go. But if you are using fresh fruit, here's a few ideas. The first is essentially the same as the frozen berry blend, and it's a combination of strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. I like to slice the strawberries into bite-sized pieces so that all of the berries are about the same size. And in total, this is about 1/2 cup of fresh fruit, but you can add as much or as little as you'd like. Next, we're going to create our own tropical blend and start with mango, which is one of my favorite fruits. To cut a mango, just slice lengthwise a little off center to avoid the seed, and use a small knife to score the mango in one direction and then the other. Use a large spoon to scoop it out, just as you would with avocado, and you've got all of these lovely little pieces. To the mango, we'll add some fresh pineapple, and I'll just cut that into bite-sized pieces. And lastly, I'll add some kiwi fruit. The easiest way to get the kiwi out is to slice it in half, use a spoon to scoop it out, and then dice it up. And fun fact, if you didn't know, but kiwis have more vitamin C than oranges. So add all of those bits and pieces to your chia pudding, and that version is done. But because I love mangoes so much, we'll use the other half for another chia pudding. So slice and dice just as you did before. But when you're left with that funky middle section, don't forget that there's still fruit around the seed. Remove the skin and try to cut off as much mango fruit as possible. Add the mango to the chia pudding, and then for a simple topping, I'll add some shredded coconut. Mango and coconut are a match made in heaven, and this couldn't be easier. Next, let's take advantage of stone fruit that is in season, and you can use nectarines, peaches, plums, apricots, or whatever you're craving. I love nectarines, so I'll slice one of those up, but then to give this chia pudding a little kick, I'm adding crystallized ginger. The ginger adds punch and pairs great with the nectarine. I should also mention that you can use any dried fruit in these chia puddings, so have fun experimenting with different flavors and textures. Add the nectarines and crystallized ginger to an individual serving of chia pudding, and this one is good to go. If you've made my PB&J chia pudding from my website, this next one won't surprise you. It's just a simple blueberry puree and my homemade almond butter. On top of the blueberry puree and almond butter, I'll add some fresh blackberries, and then this one is done as well. Now, up until this point, I have focused on your basic chia pudding recipe with a variety of fruit toppings, and these little servings are perfect for breakfast or a healthy snack throughout the day. But guess what? You can do the exact same thing with my chocolate chia pudding recipe and make a stash of healthy desserts that you can freeze and thaw whenever the craving strikes. We'll start our dessert chia pudding the same as our basic chia pudding with 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and a half a cup of milk. But because this is dessert, we're gonna sweeten things up a little. So I'll also add 1 tablespoon of cacao powder for that delicious chocolate flavor, along with 1 teaspoon of maple syrup and a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Give it a stir and let it sit for 15 minutes just as we did before. Then once it's started to thicken, stir it again and add some toppings. I'm adding a handful of raspberries and a tablespoon or so of shredded coconut. So there's a handful of ideas for delicious chia pudding meals, whether that's breakfast, lunch, snack, or dessert. One thing you'll notice that I haven't added is nuts and seeds, and that's because they'll go soggy if we add them at this stage. I do love adding nuts and seeds, but you want to add them after the chia pudding has thawed and right before you're about to enjoy it. I get asked all of the time how to add the clasps to the weck jars, so let me show you up close how I do it. After placing the lid on the container, I use 1 thumb to hold the top portion of the clasp in place, while I pull the lower end down and around. It's super easy, and believe me, the more you do it, the more second nature it becomes. Once all of your jars are sealed, you can place them in the fridge or the freezer. These will last for up to 5 days in the fridge, depending on how fresh your fruit was to start with, or for several weeks in the freezer. When you want to enjoy one from the freezer, just take it out the night before and place it in the fridge to thaw. Sometimes if your fridge is really cold, it may not thaw completely though, and if that happens, just leave it on the counter for 5 to 10 minutes. If you'd like to add any nuts or seeds, now is the time to do that, just as I'm adding chopped pistachios to this one. Then give it a stir and enjoy. And this one really does taste like a PB&J sandwich, albeit a little healthier. As you can see, there's so many options when it comes to meal prepping chia pudding, and I'd love to hear in the comments below how you would customize yours. Actually, what would be even better is if you took a photo of your meal prep chia pudding and posted it on Instagram and tagged me, or posted it in our private Facebook group. That way I can see all of your beautiful creations. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to download the PDF linked in the description box below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, because that lets me know that you would like to see more videos in this meal prep series. All right, I will see you guys again in the next video.